Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Let me give you some background. I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I've been best friends with my childhood friend since we were toddlers. Our families are close, and we've shared countless memories over the years. My younger sister, who's 19, has always looked up to us and been part of our circle. This past weekend, we attended a wedding of a close family friend. It was a big event with over 500 guests, and both our families were invited. My best friend and I have been looking forward to it for months. Little did I know that this wedding would become the epicenter of a storm that would test our friendship and my family's relationships. The trouble began when my best friend started drinking heavily at the reception. She kept going on about how attractive one of the groomsmen was, a guy named Daniel who's 28, and she confessed she'd had a crush on him for years, but he'd never shown interest, probably because he was in a serious relationship. He'd been dating his girlfriend for about 6 years. As the night wore on, my best friend's behavior became more and more embarrassing. She was practically throwing herself at Daniel, asking him to dance and fetch her drinks from the open bar. I tried to intervene a few times, but she snapped at me. At that point, I decided it wasn't my problem anymore. Besides, Daniel wasn't exactly pushing her away. He seemed to have had a few drinks himself and appeared somewhat interested. I figured if he wanted to jeopardize his relationship, that was his business. What happened next, I didn't witness personally, but I heard about it later. Apparently, my best friend and Daniel ended up having sex in another room of the venue. Unfortunately for them, someone walked in on them. Some mom who knew Daniel and his girlfriend but didn't know my best friend. Here's where things took a turn for the worse. When caught, my best friend panicked and told this woman that she was my sister. I have no idea what was going through her head. Maybe she was embarrassed or just too drunk, but she deliberately identified herself as my sister to avoid getting into trouble herself. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly everyone was talking about how my sister had been caught having sex with Daniel. People were calling her disrespectful, a homewrecker, rude, and worse. And to make matters even more horrifying, my best friend went around confirming the rumor she'd started. When I confronted her about it at the wedding, she flat out denied everything. If Daniel hadn't confirmed that it was my best friend he'd hooked up with and not my sister, I might have believed her. The next day, my best friend sent my sister a half-hearted apology text. It was full of LOLs and ha-has like she wasn't taking it seriously at all. She didn't seem to realize or care how mortified my sister was. My poor sister thinks her life is ruined. We live in a tight-knit community and a lot of people have heard a false version of what happened. Now I am torn about what to do. Up until this point, my best friend had always been good to both me and my sister, but I'm not sure I can forgive her for this, especially given how little remorse she's shown. Our friendship will never be the same regardless. My family sees her in a completely different light now. A few days after the wedding, my best friend called me casually, asking if she could sleep over at my place. She wanted to attend an event downtown, and my place was closer than hers. It was clear she had no idea how upset everyone was with her, despite the fact that neither my sister nor I had spoken to her since the wedding. When I told her that I didn't think her sleeping over was a good idea, she asked why. I brought up what happened at the wedding, and to my shock, she laughed. She said my sister needed to grow up and get over it, and she seemed to expect me to agree and laugh along with her. And that's when I lost it. I told her exactly how selfish and inconsiderate she'd been. I said if it was really no big deal, then she should have no problem taking full responsibility for her actions and publicly acknowledging that she was the one who hooked up with Daniel, not my sister. You need to make this right. My sister is still mortified over something she didn't even do. Best friend says, "Oh, come on, it's not that serious. Everyone will forget about it in a week." No, they won't. This is a small community and people talk. You potentially ruined my sister's reputation. You're being dramatic. It's just a silly misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that you created and then reinforced? You need to fix this. What do you want me to do? Go around telling everyone I slept with Daniel? That's embarrassing. More embarrassing than letting my innocent sister take the fall? Here's the deal. You need to post an apology on Facebook and tell the truth about what happened, or our friendship is over. Are you serious? You'd end our friendship over this? Yes, I am. What you did was incredibly selfish and hurtful. If you can't see that and make it right, then I don't want to be friends with you anymore. There was a long pause on the phone. I thought she might hang up or refuse, but to my surprise, she agreed. Fine, I'll post something on Facebook, but I hope you realize how much you're overreacting. I ended the call feeling frustrated. True to her word, she did post an apology on Facebook, spilling the beans about what actually happened. And when I saw people commenting on her status, commending her for her bravery and for doing the right thing, I felt annoyed all over again. She never would have done this if I hadn't forced her hand. Still, at the end of the day, my sister's name was cleared, and that was the most important thing. She was relieved that people finally knew the truth, even if the whole situation was still embarrassing and uncomfortable. As for Daniel and his girlfriend, I later found out through social media that they were still together. Whether or not his girlfriend knows about what happened at the wedding, I don't know and honestly don't care. That's their issue to deal with. Looking back on everything that happened, I'm still processing my feelings about my best friend. We've known each other our whole lives, and up until this incident, she'd always been a kind and caring person. The night of the wedding seemed completely out of character for her, including her coming onto a man in a relationship. But her actions afterward, lying about my sister's involvement, failing to understand the gravity of the situation, and her reluctance to make things right, have shown me a side of her I am not sure I can reconcile with. The fact that she only apologized and told the truth when faced with an ultimatum speaks volumes. I am not sure what the future holds for our friendship. Part of me wants to give her another chance to believe that this was a one-time lapse in judgment brought on by too much alcohol, but another part of me can't forget how easily she threw my sister under the bus. For now, I am taking some space from her. My family is still processing everything that happened, and I need time to figure out if I can trust her again. It's a harsh reminder that sometimes the people we think we knew best can surprise us in the worst ways. In the end, I'm just glad the truth came out and my sister's reputation was salvaged. It's been a wake-up call for all of us about the importance of honesty, taking responsibility for our actions, and the potential consequences of one night of poor decisions. While the wedding might have been ruined, at least we managed to salvage some semblance of truth from the wreckage. My family and I had always been pretty easygoing people, you know? We moved into this nice suburban neighborhood about a year ago, hoping for a fresh start and a peaceful life. I work from home as a software developer and my spouse is a teacher at the local elementary school. We have two kids, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, who were excited about the big backyard and the chance to make new friends. Everything was going great for the first few months. We got to know our neighbors, joined the community garden, and even started hosting weekend barbecues. That's when things took a turn for the worse. It starts with our next door neighbor. Let's just call her Karen. She seemed nice enough at first, always waving and smiling when we saw her, but then she started dropping by more often, usually when we were having our weekend barbecues. One Saturday, she came over while I was firing up the grill. "Hi there! Beautiful day for a barbecue, isn't it?" "Sure is. Would you like to join us?" "Oh, no thank you. I actually wanted to talk to you about something." I could tell by her tone that this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. "I noticed that you cook a lot of meat. Have you ever considered going vegan?" "We have, but it's not really for us. We try to eat a balanced diet though." "But don't you know how harmful meat is? For the animals, for the environment, for your own health?" She went on, lecturing me about the benefits of veganism and the horrors of the meat industry. I tried to be polite, but I was getting annoyed. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but what we eat is our choice. We're not forcing anyone else to eat meat." "But you're setting a bad example for the neighborhood. Think of the children." Who did she think she was? "I'm sorry you feel that way, but we're not going to change our diet just because you don't approve." She took off, and I thought that was the end of it, but it was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Karen kept coming by whenever we had a barbecue. She'd bring vegan pamphlets trying to guilt trip us and even started leaving graphic anti-meat flyers in our mailbox. We tried to ignore her, hoping she'd eventually give up. Then came the day of our big summer barbecue. We had invited friends and neighbors over for a day of food and fun. I was at the grill cooking up a storm when Karen appeared again. I see you're still poisoning everyone with that meat. You should be ashamed of yourself. Please, leave us alone. This is a private party. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. She stormed off again. We tried to enjoy the rest of the day. Little did we know what she had planned. About an hour into the party, people started feeling sick. First, it was just a few guests complaining of stomach aches. Then more and more people began throwing up. Even our kids were affected. It was chaos. We called emergency services and soon ambulances were arriving to take people to the hospital. It was a nightmare. We all ended up spending the night in the hospital being treated for food poisoning. At first, we thought it was just a terrible accident, maybe some bad meat or cross-contamination. But then we got a visit from our other neighbor, the one who lives on the other side of Karen. She says, I have something you need to see. She showed us a video from her indoor security camera. In it, we could clearly see Karen bragging about how she had taught us a lesson by poisoning our food. She was telling our neighbor all about how she had snuck into our backyard while we were sitting up and contaminated the meat with some kind of toxin. I was furious. This woman had not only invaded our privacy and property but had also put our lives and the lives of our children and friends at risk, all because she didn't agree with what we ate. We went straight to the police with the video evidence and they arrested Karen immediately. We filed charges for attempted murder. When it went to court, Karen tried to deny everything and she claimed she was being set up, that we were all conspiring against her because she was vegan, but the video evidence was clear. There was no denying what she had done. The judge didn't take kindly to her actions. Not only was she sentenced to a long prison term for attempted murder, but she was also ordered to pay for all the medical expenses of everyone affected by her actions. We've beefed up our home security and we're a lot more careful about who we trust in the neighborhood. We still have our barbecues and now more neighbors than ever come to join us. Some are vegetarians, some are vegans, and some are meat eaters. But we all respect each other's choices and enjoy each other's company. And that, I think, is what being a good neighbor is really all about. And it. I need to clarify something. When Karen went to the other neighbor bragging about what she did, she thought she'd get praised by that other neighbor since she's also a vegan like her, but it didn't cross her mind that just because the other neighbor was a vegan didn't mean she was a psycho like her. Stupid Karen. I've always been the type of person who tries to see the best in everyone. Maybe it's because I grew up in a small town where everybody knew each other, or maybe it's just my nature. Either way, this tendency has led me into some interesting situations, especially after I started university. When I first arrived on campus, I was overwhelmed by the sheer number of people. Coming from a place where I knew everyone's name, suddenly being surrounded by thousands of strangers was a bit of a culture shock. But I was determined to make friends and create a new community for myself. It didn't take long before I found my group. We were a mix of students from different majors who bonded over our shared love of trying new restaurants. Every week we pick a place along what we called the Miracle Mile, just off campus to have dinner together. At first it was great. We'd laugh, share stories about our classes, and enjoy some fantastic food. But then she joined our group, Karen. Karen seemed nice enough at first. She was always ready with a kind word or a helping hand when someone needed it. But we quickly noticed a pattern when it came to our weekly dinners. While the rest of us would order full meals, Karen would only ever get something small from the appetizer menu. That wouldn't have been a problem if it ended there, but it never did. As soon as our food arrived, she'd start eyeing everyone's plates. Oh, that looks delicious. Can I have a bite? Sure, I guess. And before I knew it, she'd have eaten half my meal. It wasn't just me either. She did this to everyone in the group, every single week. It got to the point where we'd all order extra food just to make sure we had enough for ourselves. We tried hinting that it bothered us, but Karen either didn't notice or chose to ignore it. None of us wanted to confront her directly because outside of these dinners, she was actually a good friend. She'd help us study offer emotional support when we needed it, and was always there to lend a hand. But after months of this behavior, we were all at our wits' end. And that's when I came up with a plan. One night, as we were all placing our orders, Karen did her usual routine. "I'll just have a small house salad, please." As soon as she ordered, she grabbed her purse and stood up. "I'll be right back, guys. Just need to freshen up." The moment she was out of earshot, I turned to the group. "Okay, listen up. I have an idea." I quickly explained my plan, and everyone agreed with mischievous grins. When our food arrived, we each put a small portion onto Karen's plate. Then we waited. Karen returned just as we were starting to eat. Her eyes lit up when she saw her plate. "Oh, you guys, you didn't have to do that. Thank you." We all exchanged knowing looks as she dug in. When we were almost finished with our meals, I nudged my friend sitting next to me. She ate it. "Pay up," friend says. "Later." We both started laughing, making sure Karen could hear us. The effect was immediate. Karen's face drained of color, and her fork clattered onto her plate. "What? What did you do to my food? What did you put in it?" Her voice was rising with panic. "Oh my God, I think I'm going to be sick." Before any of us could say anything, she bolted from the table and ran to the restroom. We could hear her retching from where we sat. After a few minutes, I started to feel a bit guilty. Maybe we'd taken it too far. I went to check on her. "Karen, are you okay? What did you put in my food? How could you do this to me?" "Karen, listen. We didn't put anything in your food. We just pretended we did." "What? Why would you do that?" "Because we're tired of you always eating our food without asking. We thought if we scared you a little, you might stop." It took a while to convince her that we were telling the truth. Then she finally came out of the bathroom. "I can't believe you guys would do that to me. I thought we were friends." "We are friends, Karen. That's why we didn't want to hurt you for real. But friends also respect each other's boundaries. You can't keep eating our food without asking." "I didn't realize it bothered you all so much. I'm sorry." After that night, things changed. Karen started ordering her own meals, though she'd still occasionally ask for a taste of our desserts. And we were okay with that compromise. Looking back, I realized our prank was a bit cruel. But sometimes, a shock to the system is what it takes to change bad habits. Karen learned to respect our boundaries, and we learned to communicate our feelings more directly. In the end, our friendship grew stronger for it. And you know what? Those weekly dinners became even more enjoyable when we all had our own food to eat. When I found out I was pregnant, my partner and I had been living together for a couple of years, and we were thrilled about starting a family. We both had stable jobs and felt ready for this next step. But my mother? Oh boy, she was not happy. See, my mom's always been super Catholic and worried about what other people think. When I told her the news, you'd think I committed a cardinal sin or something. "How could you do this? What will people say? You need to get married immediately." "Mom, we're happy as we are. We don't need to rush into marriage just because of the baby." "Absolutely not. I won't have my grandchild born out of wedlock. You'll get married or I'll cut you out of my will." Now, I'm not usually one to give in to threats, but I had a light bulb moment. If my mom wanted a wedding so badly, I'd give her one she'd never forget. I agreed to the wedding and my mom went into full planning mode. She was so focused on making everything look perfect that she didn't notice me adding my own special touches. The civil ceremony went smoothly. My mom was beaming, thinking she'd won. Little did she know the real show was about to begin at the church. First up, I invited my uncle. You know, the super evangelical one my mom stopped talking to years ago because he was too extreme, even for her. I asked him to give a little speech before the priest's sermon. "Dear beloved, we are gathered here today." Mom was praying furiously. "What is he doing here?" "Oh, I thought it would be nice to include family. You're always talking about family values, right?" Next, I picked out some really obscure evangelical songs for the ceremony. Nobody knew the words, and it was hilariously awkward watching people try to sing along. Mom hissing, "These aren't the hymns we chose." Oops, must have been a mix-up with the choir. Oh well. Put the piece de resistance. I'd done my research on a local priests and specifically requested one who, let's say, had a troubled past. As we exited the church, guess who was waiting outside? Police officer says, Father, we need you to come with us for questioning. Mom, gasping, what's going on? Me, feigning innocence, oh my, how awful. Who could have known? At the reception, I made sure to drag the bottom of my dress through some mud before making my grand entrance. My mom looked like she was about to faint when she saw me. Your dress? It's ruined. Is it? I hardly noticed. And for the final touch, I may have accidentally ordered some questionable seafood for my parents' table. Let's just say the bathrooms got a lot of views at night. Mom looking green. I don't feel so good. Maybe you should sit down, Mom. You don't look well. By the end of the night, my mom was too exhausted and mortified to even yell at me. And you know what? She didn't disinherit me after all. I guess she figured she put up with enough embarrassment for one lifetime. My partner and I are still happily married. And we laugh about our wedding day all the time. My mom? She's learned to keep her opinions to herself, mostly. And every time she starts to get a little too controlling and just casually mentions seafood, then she backs right off. So there you have it, the story of how I turned my shotgun wedding into the ultimate revenge party. Was it pity? Maybe. But it was also pretty darn satisfying.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.